The mid-nascent soul stage Han, relying on the power of the three-leaf fan, successfully repelled the silver-red leaf puppet, which was comparable to a late nascent soul cultivator. Unexpectedly, a sudden great teleportation formation transported him, along with the old man and Bai Yaoyi, to a mysterious mountain cave. Fortunately, the primary ingredient for the soul-nurturing pill, the nascent soul Ganoderma, was successfully obtained by Han. He then handed it to the old man to refine the soul-nurturing pill. He wasn't afraid of these two taking the nascent soul Ganoderma and sneaking away. The magical mark he left inside their bodies would still take several days to dissipate. If the two of them made even the slightest move, he would naturally be able to track them immediately. Han was no saint. The thought of killing them and taking their treasure had just flashed through his mind, but he knew very little about that soul-nurturing pill. Even if he got the recipe and personally refined this wondrous pill, the success rate would definitely not be high, and regardless, up to this point, his impression of these two was quite good. Han couldn't muster any strong killing intent, and so, after a moment's thought, he took the initiative to set them free. They were near what seemed to be the mouth of the cave. Outside was a flight of blue stone steps, stretching endlessly upward. A single glance was not enough to see the end. Could they be extremely deep inside the mountain? He was a bit surprised, but Hanli's streak of light didn't pause in the slightest, as he flew straight upward. But a short while later, Han was astonished. After flying for so long, the same unchanging steps were still before him. This was simply unbelievable. You have to understand, although he hadn't been flying for long, at his flight speed, the distance he had covered was already terrifying. His spiritual sense repeatedly scanned everything in the vicinity, but detected no fluctuations from any formations. He almost thought he had fallen into some kind of illusion again. Who would build a passageway this long? With this question in mind, Han flew for a while longer. He finally saw the light of an exit. Relieved, he flew out of the tunnel. Hanli's vision was suddenly filled with light. He found himself on another enormous platform. The ground was paved with smooth blue stone tiles. A single glance revealed it was thousands of feet wide. He took a deep breath, and the fragrance of grass and flowers filled his lungs. The spiritual energy here seemed even more abundant than at the teleportation array. Scanning ahead, the golden hue on Hanli's face grew even deeper. As far as he could see, at the end of the platform was a sheer cliff wall that shot straight up. He followed the cliff face upward with his eyes, only to discover that the sky was just a thin, pale white line. He suddenly spun around and glanced back at the tunnel entrance he'd come from. Behind him was another, equally imposing cliff face, together with the one in front. It sandwiched him in the middle. The giant platform beneath his feet was actually built inside an impossibly deep canyon. Han stared up for a long time before looking to his left and right, but aside from some winding, twisting cliffs, he discovered nothing. Han didn't dwell on it any longer. He immediately transformed into a streak of clear light and shot straight up into the air. After flying for a good several thousand feet, Han finally emerged from the canyon, but after a brief look around, an expression of utter disbelief appeared on his face. He then hurriedly summoned his shield light and darted off. After flying around the area for the better part of a day, he finally returned to where he started, but his face was filled with an unconcealable look of horror. How should I put this? A single word appeared in Hanli's mind: massive. Speaking of which, Han had seen all sorts of great mountains. He had seen quite a few. The largest was probably the one back in the Sea of Contemplation, the sacred mountain of Tiangxin City. That mountain was so high, it was like a pillar holding up the sky, and it could be divided into 81 levels. The fact that so many cultivators could establish their cave abodes and reside within it showed just how large that mountain was. And now, he was at another one, at the foot of a colossal mountain that was in no way inferior to that sacred mountain. Perhaps this mountain was even larger than the sacred one, but he had no way to make a specific comparison, because when he raised his head, this was definitely something that only ancient cultivators could have accomplished. Staring at the barrier of light an unknown distance away, Han hesitated for a moment, then urged his escaping light to shoot towards it. After flying for the time it takes to finish a cup of tea, Han finally reached the white light mist. The escaping light he was riding seemed incredibly tiny in front of such a vast mist of light, and after getting closer, Han examined it carefully. He couldn't tell how thick the dense light barrier was at all. Half a day later, he suddenly flew back the way he came without a second glance. He didn't need to engage it to know. He could feel the terrifying power contained within this stillness. There was another reason for this. Even a mid-stage cultivator, or perhaps even one at the deity transformation stage, would be unable to break through with sheer brute force. This was an absolute seal. On the way back to the giant mountain, Han Li observed it from a distance. One couldn't tell how large the mountain was, but he noticed that it was perpetually silent. There wasn't the slightest sound. There were no birds chirping, nor any beasts roaring. It was as if it were a dead mountain, but the dense spiritual energy within the mountain was undeniably present. As a result, this bizarre situation gave Han Li an extremely dangerous feeling. In the end, Han Li flew back with a grim expression on his face into the mountain gorge and returned to the original cave with the teleportation array. Back in the cave, the old man with the compound surname and Bai Yaoyi were still dutifully meditating. Han Li had no intention of disturbing them. After a moment's hesitation, he slapped his storage pouch with one hand, and a stack of formation plates appeared in his hand. Without a moment's hesitation, he tossed them into the air. Instantly, lights of various colors shot out in all directions, flashing for a moment before disappearing into the cave walls. A simple formation was instantly created. Besides its concealment effect, if any enemies were to invade the cave, it could also serve as a warning. The other two paid no mind to Han Li's actions, remaining seated and completely still. Seeing this, Han Li smiled faintly. He then found a corner in the cave and sat down cross-legged, closing his eyes to rest as well. A day and a night later, the old man with the compound surname and Bai Yaoyi finally began to recover their magical power. As the two of them stood up one after another, Han Li's gaze also shifted, and he opened his eyes. "Have you two fellow Taoists fully recovered your magic power?" he asked faintly. "Thank you for protecting us, Brother Han. My father and I have mostly recovered our magic power." Bai Yaoyi replied first with a charming smile. "Brother Han, you went out for a while. Do you know where this place is now?" The old man surnamed Fu, however, looked at the giant Dharma formation in the center for a moment, then couldn't help but ask, "I'm not sure, but we are inside a mountain's belly. There are restrictive spells set up all around. It seems getting out will not be an easy task." Han Li said frankly, "I am from overseas, so it's normal for me to be unfamiliar with the famous mountains and great rivers of the mainland, but this Fu might be able to recognize it." The old man surnamed Fu's eyes lit up, and he spoke with great confidence. Hey, is that so? Since Brother Fu has said so, why don't we go out and take a look first?" Han Li chuckled, and said noncommittally, listening to Brother Han's tone, "Could it be that this mountain is somewhat special? I shall go out for a look as well." Bai Yaoyi, however, immediately picked up on something. She said, her bright eyes flashing. Han Li nodded, his face showing a noncommittal expression. The divine abilities he had revealed far surpassed the two of them, so now, he had naturally become their leader. Thus, after the old man and Bai Yaoyi exchanged a glance, they immediately transformed into two streaks of escaping light, and flew out of the mountain cave. Han Li sat on the ground without getting up, but with a flip of his palm, the tracking Dharma plate appeared in his hand. His gaze swept over the Dharma plate. On it, one white and one black, two light dots were exceptionally clear. Han Li narrowed his eyes, staring at the Dharma plate without a word. After some time had passed, he raised an eyebrow. A radiant light burst from his hand, and the array disk vanished without a trace. A moment later, a flash of light appeared at the mouth of the cave, and the old Fu clansman and Bai Yaoyi flew back. But, as the two of them appeared before Han Li, their expressions were grim. "So, fellow Taoists, did you find anything?" The corner of Han Li's mouth lifted into an ambiguous smile. Although he wasn't too familiar with the Great Jin, if such a massive spirit mountain truly existed, how could he possibly not have known about it? Sure enough, as soon as Han Li spoke, the old Fu clansman gave a bitter laugh. "Brother Han, you must be joking. A mountain range like this, I've never even heard of it, let alone seen it. I'm not even sure if we're still within the borders of the Great Jin. I can't say for certain." After he said this, a hint of worrying crossed the old man's face. "That's right, for a place this astounding. If this spirit mountain were truly in the Great Jin, I would have surely heard something about it as well." Bai Yaoyi also said, her brow furrowed. "Perhaps, though we don't know what the situation is outside, or what things are like beyond this mountain. This teleportation array was definitely set up by ancient cultivators. The formation activated unexpectedly, teleporting us along with the silver-winged yaksha, all here in an instant. Perhaps we triggered some restriction in the formation during our fight. Or there might be some other unknown reason, but none of that matters anymore. For now, let's refine the peeing pill, and then explore this mountain. What do you two fellow Taoists think?" Han Li said calmly, "What you say is reasonable, Brother Han. The spiritual energy here is so abundant, it wouldn't hurt to stay here a bit longer. Besides, even if there really is something strange about this mountain, With Han Li here, it's nothing to worrying about. Who knows? This might even be some kind of opportunity for us. The Fu Crossing Elder was silent for a moment, then spoke with a broad smile. Bai Yaoyi was also extremely eager to get the Pian pill, so naturally, she wouldn't object to this. Han Li nodded. I presume the two of you have also discovered. I'm not sure if it's because of the restrictive formation outside, but our spiritual sense is greatly suppressed here. Our spiritual sense can only extend a few meters from our bodies at most, and this mountain is so vast. Even if the three of us work together, we don't know how long it would take to explore it completely. Han Li suddenly changed his tone and said, Indeed, I discovered this long ago as well. Besides, this mountain feels so lifeless. It's truly bizarre. It's most likely not a safe place. Bai Yaoyi said, regardless of what this mountain is, the spiritual energy here is so abundant. It will be of great benefit for refining the spirit pill. We should refine the Pian pill first. The Fu Crossing Elder, however, said with a few dry laughs. Han Li and Bai Yaoyi naturally had no objections. So, the group immediately, inside the cave, set up a large spirit gathering formation. Then, after setting up a few more protective restrictions, the Fu Crossing Elder began to refine the Pian pill. During this time, Han Li and Bai Yaoyi did not go out, but stood guard by his side like protectors. After all, the Pian pill was, to the two of them, incredibly important. Even if this mountain might have other oddities, they wouldn't be distracted for a moment. Just as Han Li and the others were intently waiting for the Pian pill to be ready, at a stone pavilion on the mountainside, the Yi family and their group of cultivators were gathered. Most of them were sitting cross-legged near the stone pavilion, holding a spirit stone in each hand, seemingly recovering their magical power. The white-robed scholar, who was the great elder of the Yi family, then floated above the pavilion, gazing at a long structure built into a distant mountain. This structure was built entirely of white stone. From afar, it resembled a boundless stairway to the heavens. But upon closer inspection, the white stone steps were astonishingly wide, a good 50 to 60 jong across, and whether looking up or down along the railing, the steps faded away into a white mist. It was impossible to see anything clearly. The scholar floated in the air, expressionless, remaining completely still. Before long, a flash of spiritual light suddenly appeared on the horizon. A streak of light emerged, shooting straight down from the sky towards the stone pavilion. Only then did the scholar's expression change. As he looked towards the streak of light, in the blink of an eye, the yellowish golden streak arrived. As the light around the scholar faded, it revealed a strange-looking man with a large head. It was that seventh uncle from the Yi family. I have already scouted ahead. After ascending the stairs for dozens of miles, there is an archway. It appears to be the renowned gate of 10,000 cultivators. However, the archway has been sealed by a restriction. Without breaking this restriction, we cannot ascend any further. The strange man said gravely, the gate of 10,000 cultivators. Then this must be the place. It is said that the ancient cultivators who lived on Kunwu Mountain, once numbered in the tens of thousands, only by passing through this gate can one reach the location of the Kunwu Mountain cultivators' cave abodes. The scholar let out a long breath, his expression relaxing. However, from the looks of the seal on this gate, the restriction seems to be extraordinary. We'd better get started on it soon. We don't have much time to waste. The man glanced down at the cultivators who were still meditating, and said with a frown, I am naturally aware of this, but the others' magical power is greatly depleted. They must first meditate to recover. Even if the seventh uncle and I are fine, this is not a safe place. We must still stand guard for the elders. The scholar, unable to leave his post, said with some helplessness, That's true. I never thought that passing through the seal's crack would be so difficult. Fortunately, everyone who came this time is a nascent soul stage cultivator or higher. Otherwise, someone would have truly perished. The strange man could only sigh. The scholar smiled upon hearing this. Just as he was about to say something more, his expression suddenly changed, and he abruptly looked in a certain direction. What's wrong? The strange man asked, startled. I think I hear a sound coming from over there, the scholar said with a serious expression. A sound. The strange man was a bit surprised. He circulated the magical power throughout his body, and faintly heard a beast's roar. It sounded like a tiger, yet also like a dragon's cry, and the sound was getting louder and louder. What is that? It seems like something is really coming over. A glint flashed in the strange man's eyes. With a flick of his hand, a fluorescent, sparkling object appeared in his palm. The scholar also looked into the distance, not even blinking. A moment later, a patch of purple mist appeared in the distance, and it was rushing towards them. The beast's roar was coming from within the mist. In the blink of an eye, The purple mist flew nearby, stopping only about 100 jong away. The scholar and the strange man could see something dark and shadowy hidden within the mist. A pair of fist-sized, crimson demonic eyes stared at the two of them, full of bloodthirsty and savage intent. Clearly, it was nothing friendly. The strange man's expression darkened. He raised one hand, and a stream of silver needles shot from it. Then, they vanished in a flash. But just then, like a bolt of lightning from within the mist, a giant, talon-like claw extended. With a bang, it flashed behind the silver shuttle. A loud roar boomed from within the mist. That giant claw seized the silver shuttle in a death grip, and its true form was revealed. It was actually a small, exquisite silver shuttle, a few inches long and glittering brightly, but a few drops of green blood also dripped from the giant claw. The monster in this thing immediately let out an agonized roar. Immediately, a sinister light flashed in its eyes. The entire mist suddenly thinned out. In the blink of an eye, the mist vanished into thin air, leaving nothing but two malevolent, demonic eyes. After blinking a few times, they too vanished without a trace. Seeing this, the eccentric man and the scholar both had their expressions change. This was a monster that had mastered the arts of stealth and evasion. Now, deep within these mountains, their spiritual senses were greatly suppressed. Dealing with such a monster was the biggest headache imaginable. After the two exchanged a look, they cast their spells almost simultaneously. The eccentric man opened his mouth and spat out a hazy yellow spray. After swirling around, it transformed into a massive greatsword over 10 feet long. Then, the sword began to shine with a brilliant spiritual light. After dancing menacingly in the air, it unleashed countless blinding streams of sword energy from its blade. In an instant, the area, for dozens of yards around, was illuminated by it. As for the scholar, he gave a cold snort. With a flick of his sleeve, a small green banner appeared in his hand. He immediately tossed it down by his feet. Instantly, a torrent of green energy surged out from the banner, quickly forming a large cloud of mist that protected all the cultivators below. After two soft thuds, a flash of light appeared some distance away from the stone pavilion. As the streams of sword energy swept past, the creature was forced to reveal itself again. But this time, the monster in the mist seemed to be completely enraged. Following to furious roars, the mist abruptly dispersed and revealed a 4-foot-long demon bird. This bird was 4 feet long, with a wingspan of 50 to 60 feet. Its entire body was surrounded by a piercing halo of light. It looked utterly savage and ferocious. When the scholar saw the demon bird clearly, the strange man cried out in shock. The scholar's expression immediately changed. With a flick of his sleeve, a black and red flying dagger shot out. It slashed viciously toward the demon bird. Strangely enough, the once menacing demon bird, upon seeing that dagger, was suddenly filled with fear. It opened its massive, bloody maw, and spat out circle after circle of purple light rings. Right in the path of the flying dagger, a series of rumbling explosions erupted. Amid the black and purple glow, the flying dagger tore through more than 10 of the light rings as if splitting bamboo. But with each ring it destroyed, the dagger's black aura weakened. In the end, as it got within a few feet of the demon bird, it grew dim and powerless, and was finally stopped cold. Seeing this, the demon bird was overjoyed. Just as it was about to use its powers again, to completely trap the dagger, suddenly, the scholar spat out a mouthful of essence blood. Then, he formed a seal with his hands, and quickly tapped a few times toward the essence blood. Instantly, the essence blood transformed into a series of blood-red runes, which then vanished without a trace. The flying dagger once again erupted with a blinding, blood-red light, instantly shattering all the nearby rings of light. In a flash, it appeared before the demon bird, and slashed down viciously. The demon bird was startled. Flapping its forewings, it shot backward. In its haste, it could only lift a giant claw to block the blade. Green blood splattered everywhere. Although the flying dagger was halted and knocked back, the sharp claw was swept by the blade's light, and a good chunk of it was sliced clean off. With that, the beast suddenly threw back its enormous head. A world-shaking roar erupted from its mouth, like a clap of thunder on a clear day. The scholars and the eccentric's ears rang, and their bodies couldn't help but sway. But then, an even more incredible scene unfolded. As the roar came out, a semi-transparent, golden ripple erupted from the corpse beast, meeting the flying dagger head-on. As a result, when the black flying dagger touched the ripple, it was instantly as if struck by a tremendous force, and was sent tumbling away. As for the few attacks commanded by this seventh uncle, which were assisting the flying dagger, the yellow beams of light, their situation was even worse. The moment the ripple touched them, they disintegrated inch by inch, and in the blink of an eye, vanished into the formless golden wave. The beast's expression became wary. After glaring fiercely at the scholar, its four wings flapped violently. Instantly, on its body. The sound of thunder actually erupted. Then, its form blurred, and it abruptly vanished in a flash of lightning. The next moment, it reappeared over 30 jong away. It was actually proficient in the art of thunder escape. But now, the beast didn't dare to linger for a moment. It transformed into a streak of purple light, and shot into the distance. In an instant, it disappeared over the horizon without looking back. Seeing this, the eccentric finally let out a long sigh of relief. But, as his gaze shifted, he saw the scholar's face was somewhat pale. He casually asked, "Third boy, are you all right?" Controlling the black blood saber already consumes a great deal of magical power. Why did you also use your vital blood to forcibly increase its power? The eccentric's words were filled with concern. I'm fine. I just consumed a bit of my primal che. This beast, in ancient times, model, it's also a notoriously ferocious beast. Its divine powers are even a cut above us late-stage nascent soul cultivators. If we hadn't driven it away in time, getting entangled with it would have been disastrous. Now that it has suffered a bit, it probably won't harass us again so easily. The scholar took a breath and shook his head. That's true. The bodies of these ancient ferocious beasts are generally as tough as metal. If I hadn't used my clan's black blood blade, ordinary magical treasures would have trouble injuring this beast. It's really not an easy task. Hearing this, the strange man showed a look of relief on his face. The scholar smiled faintly. His gaze swept over the green mist below. He saw that originally, the Yi family cultivators, who were awakened by the beast's arrival, had once again settled down. He immediately nodded, and after exchanging a few more words with the strange man, he leapt down into the stone pavilion and began to meditate with his eyes closed. Just now, using the ancestral treasure, the black blood blade, had consumed a great deal of his magical power. The scholar naturally took the opportunity to recover his strength first. While the Yi family, Hanli, and the others were in the Ru mountain range, at the foot of a high mountain near Wandu Valley, in an inconspicuous valley, 5 figures in white stood side by side at the valley's entrance, and opposite them were 2 black mountain cultivators, reporting something with respectful expressions. A shocking celestial phenomenon has appeared. A voice drifted from an unknown location, speaking with a hint of surprise. The voice was somewhat magnetic, but it was impossible to tell if it was male or female. It's the Great Elder, at a location near an unnamed lake in Puyun Prefecture. There, 7 golden pillars of light stretched straight up into the sky. One of the Black Mountain cultivators reported. When did this happen? Was anything discovered? The owner of the voice seemed quite interested. It happened 4 days ago. The disciples of our sect also received this news. They reported it immediately using transmission talismans. It is said that beneath the pillars of Tao light, an incomparably huge seal was discovered under each one. Because the seal is so massive, we still haven't figured out this seal's specific configuration. But it's said that many sects in the southern border have been alarmed. Some nascent soul-level cultivators are rushing over there now. The humble cultivator reported respectfully. 7 pillars of light. It sounds like it was caused by a breakthrough. Lin Li mused. But something this astonishing is certainly worth a trip for me. However, a few days ago you said that Fu Lauer of the Nine Serenities sect appeared near the Myriad Poisons Valley. But until now, there has been no news at all. Did you get something wrong? You can't even find this person, let alone find that fellow surnamed Han. The voice turned indifferent and icy cold. Great Elder, please forgive us. We received news that a cultivator did indeed see Fu Lauer coming this way. Then he just disappeared near the Myriad Poisons Valley. The 2 Black Mountain cultivators both looked panicked. One of them immediately pleaded for forgiveness, saying, "In the Myriad Poisons Valley, there are indeed traces of a cultivator's activity. But, except for the Yin Yang Grotto, which I didn't go down into, I have already searched all the other places in the valley. There is no one in the valley. You're not trying to tell me that Fu Lauer went down into the Yin Yang Grotto, are you? If that's the case, I've been guarding this place for some time now. I should have heard something by now. Unless Fu Lauer really plans to live out the rest of his life at the bottom of the Yin Yang Grotto." When the 2 Black Mountain cultivators heard this, they mumbled a few words, momentarily at a loss for how to reply. Cold sweat started beating on their faces. Forget it. In this amount of time, it wasn't easy for you to have tracked things to this place. I'll give you all some more time. Send men to keep this valley under surveillance. I will head to Puyun Prefecture first. You are also to notify the 2 elders to head to that same location and rendezvous with me. There's strength in numbers. Yes, Great Elder. The 2 Black Mountain cultivators finally felt a sense of relief, bowing as they replied. But the voice said nothing more. Instead, 5 white figures suddenly stirred and simultaneously shot up into the sky. In a flash of light, they tore through the air and departed. At the same time, high above a barren plain near the border of Puyang Prefecture, a team of cultivators was flying swiftly toward a small lake. There were more than 20 of them in this group. Each one was dressed in blue robes, with red bands wrapped around their heads. The for flying at the very front were all in the nascent soul stage. Their cultivation levels were exceptional. Among them was a middle-aged cultivator with a face full of tattoos, who seemed to be at the peak of the mid-nascent soul stage. His entire aura was abnormally cold, giving off an extremely dangerous feeling. Senior Brother Hua, do we really need to mobilize so many people this time? We've even brought out disciples from our Dusha sect. The vast majority of them, too. If anything goes wrong, our sect's foundation will be gravely injured. Another elder, who was at the early nascent soul stage, while in mid-flight, addressed the middle-aged, tattooed cultivator. With a worried tone, if an ordinary treasure had appeared, I naturally wouldn't take such a risk. But this time, it is very likely the legendary Kunwu Mountain. For the secret treasures within this mountain, this risk is certainly worth it. The middle-aged cultivator said, his words astonishing. Kunwu Mountain, you mean the Spirit Mountain that our sect has been searching for since its founding? Another white-haired elder exclaimed in shock. Not bad. I already spoke of this matter once after several junior brothers advanced to the nascent soul stage. I've already explained it once. Back in ancient times, this mountain was one of the most renowned spiritual mountains in the mortal realm, although, for some unknown reason, it was sealed away by ancient cultivators, using their immense powers. But there's no doubt about the abundance of secret treasures on the mountain, and the founding ancestor who established our Falling Saint sect was actually a descendant of one of the ancient cultivators who sealed this mountain. But regarding the specific details of the mountain's seal, he didn't know much either. He only knew that the mountain was sealed somewhere in the southern borderlands. That is why our sect was founded in the southern borderlands, and we have been searching for this mountain's whereabouts ever since. But unfortunately, the founding ancestor never found any leads back then. This matter was thus treated as a secret known only to the successive generations of elders. A secret affair, passed down from generation to generation. The nostalgic look on the middle-aged cultivator's face faded, and he spoke in a cold tone. But, Senior Brother Hua, how do you know that this celestial phenomenon is a sign of Kunwu Mountain's appearance? Could it be some other secret treasure? The thick-browed old man who had asked the initial question asked with some surprise. Hey, back then, the founding ancestor, aside from telling us that Kunwu Mountain was somewhere in the southern frontier, also possessed an item from that ancient expert, a personally refined spirit sensing pearl. This pearl was created specifically for Kunwu Mountain. It can sense the mountain's famously renowned flying immortal stone. As soon as this mountain appears, the spirit pearl can immediately sense it. And just a few days ago, this very pearl, which is enshrined in the ancestral hall, suddenly began to emit a series of clear chimes. That is how I knew Kunwu Mountain had emerged. Even if the disciples hadn't come to report the celestial phenomenon, this matter, I would have immediately sent people to search all over the southern borderlands. I see. The other three cultivators then seemed to realize. Then, a look of excitement appeared on the right army commander's face. It's a pity Senior Brother Yuan in the sect. Otherwise, for our Dushi sect, if the 5 great elders were to join forces, this trip would be much safer. But the gray-haired elder sighed. After Junior Brother Yuan went out a while ago, he was very secretive when he returned. Now, we don't know where he is and can't contact him. However, I have already given the order. The disciples have been told that as soon as they see Junior Brother Yuan, they are to have him rendezvous with us immediately. What we need to do now is take advantage of the fact that the other sects don't yet know about Kunwu Mountain. We must enter the mountain first. Let's retrieve most of the secret treasures as quickly as possible. I just don't know if the mountain's emergence this time is because the seal weakened on its own, or if other cultivators were involved. If it's the latter, we will need to be extra careful on this trip. As the middle-aged cultivator spoke, his expression turned grave. These cultivators from the Duo Sheng sect naturally had no idea that the junior brother Yuan they spoke of had already perished in the mouth of a silver-winged yaksha. Therefore, after a brief discussion, they accelerated their escaping lights, rushing on their journey even faster than before. Arriving even a day earlier would be a great advantage for them. In the area of the small lake in Puyang Prefecture, several hundred cultivators of varying cultivation levels had already gathered. They were clustered in groups of 3 to 5. Many of them had even flown directly into the sky, using the 7 pillars of light as a focal point, silently searching for something. On the ground, a few who possessed Earth escape talismans or knew some Earth-style techniques would occasionally burrow into the ground and then re-emerge, and with some of their companions on the surface, they would excitedly discuss something. It was clear that a massive seal was hidden below. It has already been discovered. Compared to the immense size of this seal, the crack that the Yi family forcibly pried open with a formation has yet to be precisely located, but even so, this was enough to make all these cultivators exceptionally excited. Some had already started sending word to their respective families or sects using transmission talismans. Others even flew off immediately overnight to report this matter in person. Right now, the cultivators here are mainly at the foundation establishment stage. There aren't many check condensation or core formation cultivators. Most of them are rogue cultivators who discovered this by chance and rushed over to take a look. The other group consists of scouts from various powers, big and small, who rushed here recently upon hearing the news. As for nascent soul stage cultivators, not a single one has been seen here yet, and that's not surprising. This place was originally a desolate land. There are no famous mountains or great rivers nearby, nor are there any major clans or cultivation sects. Nascent soul stage cultivators naturally wouldn't come to such a remote backwater for no reason. Even after receiving the news, the group of cultivators from the Lone Saint sect who rushed over immediately are still 2 days' journey away. However, most of the low-level rogue cultivators, upon discovering that the underground seal was so vast as to be unimaginable, although they were extremely reluctant to part with it, wisely chose to leave one after another. They were well aware that no matter what kind of heavenly treasures were under the seal, a struggle of this magnitude was not something they could possibly participate in. If they continued to stay and ended up getting caught in the crossfire between high-level cultivators, that would be a terrible stroke of bad luck. Of course, there were also a few young and hot-headed low-level cultivators who were unwilling to leave. On one hand, they wanted to see what exactly was under the seal. On the other hand, they were naturally harboring a sliver of hope. They figured that although their own cultivation levels weren't high, if an opportunity presented itself, it wasn't impossible to fish in troubled waters. It was very much a gamble. For a time, this place became a chaotic mix of all sorts of people. There were many who harbored ulterior motives. However, none of this had anything to do with Han Li, who was deep within the sealed mountain. It had absolutely no relation to him. At this moment, he and Bai Yao were staring intently at the old Fu clansman sitting cross-legged in the middle of the cave. They didn't even blink. Well, rather than saying they were staring at the old man, it would be more accurate to say they were staring at a shimmering golden cauldron in front of him. This cauldron was 3 feet off the ground, floating in the air and rotating slowly. The old man, in turn, was spewing wisps of green, fiery smoke from his mouth, while his 2 hands formed an unknown incantation seal. He continuously struck the cauldron with it. Every time an incantation seal struck the cauldron, which was enveloped in green fire, it would ripple with a 5-colored glow. It looked incredibly magnificent, and from within the cauldron, waves of medicinal fragrance were already wafting out. The aroma was rich and alluring. Just smelling it made one feel refreshed and clear-headed. Yet the old man's movements became faster and faster, and his expression grew exceptionally solemn. It was clear the pill refinement had reached a critical stage. To the side, Han Li appeared outwardly calm, but inwardly, he was also quite tense. The Lanying's horse and several other rare materials had, over the past few days, been thrown into the cauldron one after another. If this cauldron of pills wasn't successfully refined, they didn't have a second Lanying's horse to use for alchemy. So, even though he'd heard from the old Fu clansman's tone that he was very confident about refining the peeing pill, now that he could see the pill was about to be completed, his heart was naturally filled with anxiety over the potential gain and loss. Beside him was Bai Yaoyi. Although she also looked drained, the eager glint that flashed in her bright eyes from time to time completely revealed her anxious state of mind. Suddenly, the cauldron lid came to a halt. It stopped spinning. At the same time, a humming sound came from within. The medicinal fragrance from the cauldron instantly grew 3 times richer. The old man's eyes lit up. The hand seals he was forming and the incantations he was chanting both paused. With another flip of one hand, a small, vermilion gourd appeared in his palm. It was only about 4 to 5 inches in size. With his other hand, he flicked his middle finger. With a pang sound, a white ball of light struck the lid. As a result, the lid trembled and fell off, and the humming from the cauldron ceased. Immediately, 5 fist-sized balls of light shot out from inside, and within the white light, one could vaguely see a thumb-sized green pill in each. They were a vibrant, glistening green, shimmering and glowing. After circling once above the cauldron, the balls of light scattered in all directions, intending to escape. but the well-prepared old man quickly shook the gourd in his hand. A multicolored glow sprayed out from it. With a flash of spiritual light, it swept up all the balls of light, collecting them inside the gourd. All right, a great success. Only then did the old man let out a long breath. He turned, and with a wide smile, said to Hanli, I've troubled you, brother. I didn't expect to actually refine 5 pills. I was worried there wouldn't be enough. The white-robed beauty stood up, and said with delight, a faint blush appearing on her face, making her look charming and captivating. The ingredients that my master originally prepared according to the recipe were supposed to produce a number of pills. Double quotes. Around 5 or 6. Otherwise, I wouldn't have invited only 5 fellow Taoists in the first place. What a pity. Junior sister Chong and fellow Taoist Yuan met with a tragic end because of this. The smile on the old man's face vanished. Clearly, the relationship between the old man and the beautiful woman in black was not a shallow one, even though most cultivators are accustomed to life and death. Seeing that the pill was now complete, while his junior sister Chong had perished for it, he couldn't help but feel a wave of sorrow in his heart. Hearing the old man say this, the joy on Bai Yaoyi's face disappeared. She too let out a soft sigh. Han Li's expression, however, remained unchanged, but he also remained silent and said nothing. Fellow Taoist Bai, you can. A wood attribute box. It's best not to use an ordinary container to store it. Its medicinal properties will easily dissipate, and the potency of this pill is too great. If you were to consume it immediately, you would need to spend at least half a year in seclusion, just to refine its medicinal properties. Otherwise, its effects will be greatly diminished. The look of sorrow on the old man's face quickly passed. Tossing the gourd in his hand, he said to Bai Yaoyi with a serious expression, Of course, there are wooden boxes. A pill like this must be treasured. I certainly won't consume it right away. Bai Yaoyi gave a captivating smile. With a flip of her hand, a yellow wooden box appeared in her palm. The old man nodded. Without another word, he flicked the bottom of the gourd with his finger. Instantly, a red mist swirled. A ball of white light shot out, flying straight towards Bai Yaoyi. Bai Yaoyi tossed the wooden box from her hand. With her other hand, she made a grasping motion in the air towards the pill. The pill transformed into a streak of white light, and shot directly into the wooden box. Bai Yaoyi inspected it carefully a few times, and as for the Zhongling pill, she could clearly sense with her spiritual sense the astonishing spiritual power contained within this pill. Only then did he put away the wooden box, overjoyed, the wooden box, and then profusely thanked the old man. The old man chuckled upon hearing this. He reached for the storage pouch on his waist, and unexpectedly took out a green wooden box as well. Then, under Bai Yao's astonished gaze, he also poured a spirit pill from the gourd, placed it into this wooden box, and then immediately put it away. He then gave Han Li a dry laugh. After standing up, he raised his hand with a flick, and threw the entire crimson gourd directly to Han Li. Although Han Li subconsciously caught the gourd, a look of surprise also appeared on his face. Fellow Taoist, what is the meaning of this? I believe I only asked you for tenacent soul pills. Han Li furrowed his brow, and spoke slowly. Model.